So in this episode, I am joined by Chris Marrow of Midollo, a small PM and QS consultancy in the Northwest. They focus on two particular sectors, the PBSA market and the healthcare sector. What I think you'll all get out of this episode is two things. First of all, Chris, for both himself and a small business, have built a brilliant brand, and you learn all about that and the value, I think, of personal brand in the market. Secondly, their business are absolute specialists in two sectors, and Chris talks at length about how he's had a lot of success from being a real specialist in the PBSA market and equally in the healthcare sector. I think you'll get a lot out of personal brand and being really super niche in your markets when you have a session or listen to the session with Chris. Welcome, Chris. Today I'm joined by Chris Marrow of Midollo. They are a Northwest-based consultancy. Chris, I guess over to you. Can you just tell us a bit about, the size of the business, where you are in terms of headcount, turnover, main areas you concentrate?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Paul.
Absolute pleasure.
We've sort of been in touch many times over the years, so it's good to sort of get together and do this.
Yeah, I remember when you first set up, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So on that, yeah, we're predominantly project management and QS business, okay. Set up back in 2018, so fast approaching our 7th birthday.
Yeah, amazing.
Don't know where 7 years went, but there we go. We focus, we're very much specialists, so we're not generalists. We very much focus on our core strengths, so purpose-built student accommodation, healthcare. We're sort of small. We've got a team of 5 at the moment, but we punch well above our weight. Our current turnover is circa 400k a year. When I say we punch above our weight, we've got some really interesting clients, and one of the projects that we're working on at the moment is the biggest design, build, finance, operate PBSA or purpose-built student accommodation project in Europe. Advising the University of Manchester, who are a great client to work with. So
yeah, amazing. And just on a very quick tangent, I hate to say this word because it's a word that just causes a lot of stress in the industry. But with PBSA, I assume you've still got the same issues around the BSA and Gateway 2. Is that an issue, I guess, in that market as it is residential or not?
I think it's fair to say that last year in particular was probably our toughest year in business, and a lot of that was because of gateway delays.
Yeah.
So we were fortunate in a sense, in terms of, I say fortunate, you kind of make your own luck, but we had enough work in terms of projects that were live on site that kind of saw us through that dip. But there was lots of projects that were going through that unknown around how do we sort of submit to the regulator? Some of the things that the regulator was sort of struggling to sort of give clarity on, which I think has moved on since. And just yesterday, actually, we've had some really positive dialogue with the safety regulator, which is music to my ears.
Absolutely.
So I'm hopeful that they will start to come out the other side. But yeah, the industry, obviously, from a consultancy perspective, we're at the front end. So it'll be, I think, the remainder of 2025 and going into 2026. I'm hopefully the sort of contractor market and the supply chain has enough work on that can see them through what will inevitably be their dip and in pipeline as we saw last year. It's, I get asked the question every day. We give loads of advice to clients around all things BSR related, and we're all learning. You know,
that's the problem, isn't it? Yeah,
even the regulators.
They clearly are learning, aren't they?
Regulators definitely,
given their ineptitude with it, they must be learning still.
But it's like anything, isn't it? You know, I recently watched the documentary on Netflix around Grenfell.
Yes,
kind of, it's been done for the right reasons. Implementation,
absolutely,
could have been better. Probably an understatement.
Yes,
but it's been done for the right reasons in terms of the changes that needed to come into the industry. And long term, I think the supply chain, the contractor market will be so much better for it. We're almost back to For those that remember, that almost traditional design where all the design is done up front before you even get to site. So the builder can focus on building it. So
I think everything should be better. Less disputes at the end if everything's designed properly.
Exactly. Avoiding this sort of trying to price uncertainty because they haven't done the detail. We've got to do a lot more to get to that design before they hit site. So I think it'll be a real improvement for the industry. The only thing where I thought they kind of missed the trick was, and I never thought I'd say this, but having worked in Scotland, the building warrant process in Scotland is very rigorous, but it's staged. Okay. So if the regulator had gone down that route of just being able to sort of say, right, well, we want information up to this stage and then we'll sign it, I think they'd have probably made life a little bit easier for themselves. Hey, not to be.
Well, fingers crossed. It almost does feel like the floodgates are getting pressure now, and when it goes, we should see the whole residential market, residential market blow up. I think hopefully.
Well, I'm sure there'll be a few people in your audience who'd be pleased to hear this. But one conversation with a case officer from the regulator yesterday was, look, they'd asked for an extension straight away to 20 weeks, which to some extent we weren't surprised about. I was glass half full about it. A few people in the project team were more glass half empty. Is it just to get to 20 weeks to ask for a further 8-week extension? Yeah. But the regulator was quite taken back when we sort of had that conversation with them, and they were very much, look, we're still working towards 12 weeks, but we've just asked for 20 to try and set expectations, right, and that's music to our ears. So set those expectations.
Good.
We just need to approve it within 20 weeks.
You're absolutely right that it's got to be right, hasn't it? The thing is, it's got to be right. But you're also getting the impression now that the government feels the pressure that we've got to get moving with this now because of the delays it's causing. So hopefully we should start seeing those floodgates open, I would like to think.
Yeah, I think so. And you look at things at a national level, there's lots of things happening in the economy, both in the UK and globally. Yeah, and nobody wants to see a downturn in construction output and construction starts, which we've got a lot of buildings that are taller than 18 meters. Funnily enough, and if we don't get that pipeline released, I suspect the government have probably already seen some of that in figures already, but it'd be interesting to see when the GDP figures do come out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether or not that has, in the construction sector, that has us at a notable dip.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We'll see.
Yes, fingers crossed. So, Chris, one of the first kind of questions I normally ask is, how do you get into the industry? Because I think people are fascinated by, and it's a big topical subject at the moment, isn't it? That we don't have enough people in the industry, and it's getting worse. But how did you get into the industry?
I kind of, by chance, right? I kind of fell into the industry, I suppose is the best way to put it. I was still in sixth form at my local high school, and I'd got to the point where I had enough of full-time education. My sixth form college and my sixth form tutors, I should say, were beside themselves at the fact that I said I didn't want to go to university full time. Not that is a poor decision by any stretch. Lots of people go to university full time, but for me, I wanted to get my teeth into a career.
Yes.
So because my sixth form was part of my high school, I'd been at since year 7. They had a careers advisor. You go and speak to the careers advisor. You tell them, I really want something I can have a career in here and get my teeth stuck into, and a full-time job. And the first things they came back with was some part-time jobs. And I was like, wasn't really what I'm thinking about. I wanted something that I can really get stuck into. And to be fair, they came back and said, all right, okay, Chris. They put a few things my way. I think one was an asbestos surveyor.
Right.
and another one was a trainee cost consultant, quantity surveyor, in Manchester, not too far from where we are today, actually, but St Anne's Square in Manchester. So I went for the interview. I didn't get called for an interview for the asbestos surveyor, and I was like, a company car with that job. I was like, I wouldn't have minded that. So I went for the interview, and I remember being asked the question, do you know what a QS is? And of course, I should have done my research, shouldn't I, going to a job interview? And I said, well, I've got...
A lot more difficult back then, probably, to do the research.
Yeah, I've kind of got an idea, and, a friend of mine told me that they count bricks, and what was to become my first leader, my managing director, he it's just burst out laughing. And he said, well, yeah, there is a bit of that, but we tend not to count them individually. I was like, right. So good, because that sounds, quite boring. But he very much said, look, we're in the insurance game. We're there to sort of protect clients, to look after clients' money. And I thought, that sounds quite interesting. And we had a really good rapport, but it was mainly around, I knew that if I'd have gone to university full time, like a lot of my friends at the time, I probably wouldn't have applied myself in that full time, continuing in full time education. And I also knew how much I would have enjoyed the social side, and the two went hand in hand. So yeah.
You knew yourself, excellent. So who was that first firm that you started with?
So it was a fantastic SME called Pooldick Associates.
Oh, yeah. Venture became E.C. Harris, was that right?
No, slightly different firm, but Pooldick are actually still in existence today as they're a private limited company, still an SME.
Right.
There's probably about 20 of them at the last count, but fantastic firm.
Yeah.
You really did have that real training ground. I've yet to, having worked for many other companies, I would say that their sort of training ground was just fantastic. And it was something that when I set up my business, there was so much I learned from being in that SME that I wanted to make sure that I could incorporate into my business. So yeah, but they were a fantastic, great company to work for. Working alongside associates. One of the things that kind of struck me, particularly when we went into COVID, and there were lots of people who were, well, for those people who were in larger companies and companies that weren't furloughed, and returning to work actually after COVID, you forget the amount of passive learning that you get from being sat in an office. And I'm not saying that, I think hybrid working is the way to go, and people post-COVID, including myself, like and prefer that balance between work and home. But I also think that if you're a younger member of the team who, like I was many years ago now, trying to find your feet in an industry, learn, grow, progress, sitting in an office and hearing a director or one of the associates have a difficult conversation with a contractor or a client, trying to set expectations if a client's being difficult or a contractor's being unreasonable, which does happen. Sometimes I always say it's about how do you bring them, keep them back together, keep them together, keep them talking, rather than them sort of slowly drifting apart. Yeah. And I learned a lot of those conversations from being sat in an office and hearing those difficult conversations. Yeah.
You learn by osmosis, don't you? That's
Oh yeah, and the younger you are, I've got a 5.5-year-old and the 6-month-old, not so much at the minute, but my 5.5-year-old is just a great big sponge, and he just this morning he was saying something to our 6-month-old in the kitchen, and I was like, he's got that from his mum. And she said it yesterday.
obviously at that age they're absolute sponges. But even like, when you get into like, your late teens, early 20s, they're still sponges. Our brains are still evolving, adapting out there. So absolutely, you can learn a lot. And this is one of the dangers, isn't it? That businesses have got to get it right, particularly with bringing on juniors and apprentices. They've got to have the right environment to learn and develop, and maybe that's an argument for. I think certainly the industry is generally still debating what that looks like, whether it is remote, hybrid, full time in the office. And I think what I would say, my experience across a lot of businesses, you've just got to set your stall out and say, this is us as a business, and we make it then work for the business. There's a lot of businesses that seem a little bit kind of half pregnant, who are just trying to, they don't know what to do, so everyone's doing different things. I say, well, that doesn't work, because you've got to just set your stall out and say, this is how we do things here, and this is our model. And for anybody coming in, you either like it or you don't like it, because we can't change the whole business for one individual.
I mean, you're in the recruitment game, and you will know better than anyone if companies aren't clear in terms of what their expectations are. Then recruitment can be a lottery.
Absolutely, it can.
And you invest a lot of time and money finding the right people. You invest even more time in, once they're in, trying to develop them, trying to keep them. The last thing you want to do is get that mismatch straight from the off. So 100% agree. You've got to be really clear in terms of what your expectations are as an employer.
100%.
And then you get the right employees, right?
Yeah, of course you do. You get people that are going to fit your culture fundamentally, whereas if it's all just that's the bum on the seat attitude, which I think it's rare that a business of your size will do that, because I think because it's critical, each hire is super critical. But even when businesses get bigger, I think they just get a bit too blasé about just taking on, they're a senior QS, they've got 8 years experience, they're Emirates, let's take them on. It's like, well, do they fit culturally? Are they going to be aligned to your business? Because if not, you're just storing up a headache later down the line.
100%. The greatest example of that probably the most people can relate to, anyone who follows sport. I'm a Man United fan. So talk about
which one are you going to go with here? This could be plenty of go on.
but talk about getting the right players. So business is no different than sport in that respect.
Absolutely.
So it's a team. Business is a team game. And if you get the wrong players, you got to get the right players. You got to put them in the right positions. And a team is made up of people who can do different things and different strengths. And one of the things that we do when we're recruiting is we do like disc profiles to see where they kind of fit into the overall picture for us. But Man United are a prime example of.
How intrigued are you going to go with here? This could be we could pages long about all the mistakes that made with hiring. Who were you going to have as an example there?
They're a prime example. I wasn't going to single out any particular footballers because you could list
all managers,
all managers. But your recruitment strategy has got to be right, and it's got to be consistent. It's got to be well thought out, and then you recruit to that. And that's something that my team, I say my team. I've got my team that had been my team since I was a little boy, and then I live in Altrincham now, so I do also watch Altrincham. I have to say, watching Altrincham at times has been better than watching United in recent years, but I also have been spoiled over a long period of time. With my football team. So there we go.
Well, I say this through gritted teeth as a Leeds United fan, but we do need Man United to back up there, don't we?
And we need Leeds United in the Premier League because it's hopefully 6 points. So.
For Leeds, obviously at the moment, State of United, we'll see.
I've got lots of friends who are Burnley fans who. Relish the opportunity of playing Man United. I'm going to the game in a couple of weeks. So
that'll probably be 6 points for you, but anyway, we'll find out.
Well, that's what the Burnley fans keep saying to me.
I don't think you're quite that bad, but we'll see. So, what made you get to a point that you thought, I want to start my own business? What was there a catalyst? Was there a point in time? What made you choose to do that, Chris?
So as I mentioned before, I'd worked for an SME. I left the SME and went for a very different very different role for SME to PLC,
Right. Yeah.
which are two incredibly different animals.
Absolutely, yeah.
If anyone's been through that journey, they'll know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I worked for a large sort of 2 billion turnover, still privately owned construction and consultancy business as well. So I'd had quite a range of experience, and I kind of always had an inkling that I wanted to do my own thing.
Yeah.
And I thought it for a while, and I suppose there's kind of two things that kind of pushed me there. One of them was probably I got to a point where I'm not hugely financially driven. I'm not somebody who I'm not a natural salesperson who goes, you know, if you do X in turnover and this year it's got to be Y and sort of, you know, Wolf of Wall Street, the deal's done, beating the chest type approach. So I kind of got to a point in bigger businesses where I felt like the sort of the day-to-day, the service, you know, working with clients, the service delivery, I'd kind of moved away from that to more of a fee target and hit your fee target and stretch target and hey, next year the fee target gets bigger. And some people, and there's no right or wrong answer to this because that drives some people and they relish that. For me, it was more about there were things that I'd seen being an SME, PLC, big private company, and I kind of wanted to take the best of all those worlds and bring them into one space. So setting up Midollo was about, for me, it was quite a lot of reflection on what I enjoyed about being part of those businesses. Because if I'd enjoyed it, chances were if I set up a business around that and then recruited to that and was really clear about what this is what the business is all about because this is what I enjoy. You know, timesheets. I've never accurately, and you can publish this, but I've never accurately completed one timesheet in my career because
Have many
because I've never done anything that's time charged, so it's not been something that I've had to do that closely. And you know, I know my scope of service when I'm working for clients, so you generally know if there's a conversation to be had if you're going well above what you've been asked to do originally. So timesheets was the first thing that went. Day one, and everyone in our team very much enjoys the fact that we don't do timesheets. But it's that. So that coming back to your question. That was a big driver for me. So, and probably the biggest driver. So, you know, falling out of love with that approach of being very much just focused on the financial targets, and also, and the second part of it being just wanting to create something different. I really thought that there was a better way of doing things, and there was a place in the market for a consultancy that was very much. I mean, people say people first businesses. We're consultancies. We employ people. We don't make things. We don't make widgets. We're people. We're people based. So it was very much about a people first approach, and every consultancy says that, don't they? You'll hear it day in day out. People first. It's all about our people. But there's lots of consultancies that I've seen that say it. We all say it, but how many of them truly mean it?
Absolutely. Yeah,
you know, we created our expense system out of my frustration with every expense system that I'd ever had. So we introduced an expense card because
I can remember your LinkedIn post on it.
Yeah. So we use Playo, and it's great. And you know, people talk about, you know, in businesses and mental health and well-being, financial well-being, particularly in the climate that we've had over recent years. Financial well-being is so important, and people having more money in their pocket. And I remember building up expense claims of in the, you know, $1,000, $2,000, because it was so difficult to do an expense claim. You dreaded it, and you just had to, once every sort of 2 to 3 months, you just had to clear your diary to do an expense claim, and then getting it approved. And now out of pocket expenses are massively reduced.
Good.
For us. But that's what I mean when I say it's a people first approach, because you want your employees to like make it easy for them. Make it easy for them, because if you do,
certainly don't make it difficult.
I mean, what's the multiplier on that? Me taking a day out of what's the cost of that to a business?
True.
Every person having to take a day out of their
you're right.
Their working life to do an expense,
2 or 3 months,
to do an expense claim. So, and we just make it easy for our team. So that was one of the decisions we made to like you say, be people focused and
good.
Invent the system based on the people, not the system.
The other way around,
yeah. Anyway,
good. No, I have to say one of the things that's really positive about your business is I think you've got a great brand already. I see you pop up all the time, and you get a feel for the business, which is great. I think more businesses should embrace that at the end of the day, and obviously what this kind of thing is part of as well, just getting yourself out there. Yeah,
we get lots of compliments on our brand. It's 4 years this year since we launched that as our branding, and Billy and Dan from Partisan, who worked on our branding for us, were brilliant, absolutely fantastic. I think when you're talking about business branding, you really need to take a step back and saying before about what's the business about. And for me, it was, taking the best bits that I'd found from other businesses, so people first, technology supporting people, not people tearing the hair out at the technology that they've been told to use. So there were lots of things that I embedded into Midollo, and the branding for me reflects that perfectly in terms of the way that we are, the way that we operate, and we get so many compliments on it. And I remember one instance. I've had a couple of architects who've said it to me as well, which is always great. I love that because somebody who trained as a QS and now spends their life as a project manager, when the sort of the creatives in our industry come up to me and compliment our branding, I'm like, we've I like it. It stands out. You definitely. People say you don't look like a project management and cost consultancy business from your branding. I was like, oh, that's great, because we don't want that same sort of. We didn't want that same sort of corporate blue, and we wanted a different feel. We are, we're small and we're boutique. We're not mass market. And I think the branding reflects that perfectly. One story from the branding exercise actually was I got asked what does Midollo mean, and a number of people do know this, but it's Marrow, my surname in Italian, and one of the funny things was that some of the market research that our branding guys did was there's a project management firm in Italy called Marrow.
Really? Brilliant.
So somebody else had the same idea.
Amazing.
So that did make me smile.
Brilliant. Well, I'd say I'm a massive fan of your branding. I think it stands out. I always look for your posts because it feels quite natural as well. A lot of stuff you put out, just you get a real sense of your business, which is quite important in today's world. You've got to get out there and be recognised for something.
It is, and do you know it's a crowded market, isn't it?
Really, absolutely.
And it is difficult to stand out, but the way you stand out is, I'm a big. We're a small business, and it's my name above the door, literally in a different language, and you've got to be the face of your business, and I kind of take a lot of my inspiration. You look to the big sort of tech firms, but going back, you look at some other entrepreneurs, your Richard Bransons of this world, and Richard Branson will have a far greater influence and following because of his personal brand than any of the individual businesses within the Virgin Group.
And he pulls people in, doesn't he? Because of that, certain historically, I think some debate about whether some of his brands still live by that purpose and the drive. But certainly initially, years gone by, absolutely, some of the stunts he used to do were just brilliant. Just like, you know, he played the game perfectly. Before social media was a thing, he was playing it with the tabloids way before everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I remember the one of was it Times Square in the tank?
Yeah. He was trying to sell
when he was trying to sell his Virgin Cola and taking shots at Pepsi and Coca-Cola in Times Square. But yeah, I mean, Branson took an interesting approach to it. I'm not planning on throwing myself out any planes or driving a tank through St Anne's Square anytime soon. But there are ways that you can do it, and I think when you are your business, in which case I am, I think more people pay attention to that, and it's more authentic, isn't it? 100%. You know, because, you know, like I said, I took the time to think about what I wanted Midollo to be about.
Yeah.
And because of that, it's easy for me to go into putting content on LinkedIn and sort of speaking quite openly, because it's a true reflection of what we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
no, good. No, well done. I like it. So I guess getting back to the core bit of the business. So PBSA and health, why those two sectors? Is that just, you know, what yourself or other people in the business just had as the core sectors when you set the business up?
Yeah. So when I first set up, it was just me.
Yeah.
From my kitchen table. So kitchen table and then home office down the garden. Finished the home office in December 2019, and then everybody in the world thought I'd had some sort of crystal ball, because whilst people were literally at their kitchen tables,
something we didn't know.
Yeah, I was sat in a nice sort of garden office, at a little sanctuary. Student accommodation is my bag.
Yeah.
So I've worked in the sort of living sectors through my whole career.
Yeah.
So and the last 10 plus years, PBSA in particular has been where my focus has been.
Yeah.
I've advised clients on probably over 20,000 student beds now, so I've got a real wealth of experience in that.
Yeah.
And I am not a healthcare expert.
Right. No.
Healthcare is a different bag altogether.
Yeah,
they definitely speak a different language.
Absolutely.
But my business partner, Aga, her work is primarily NHS trusts. So that's the link. Albeit in the earlier sort of part of Midollo, before we were more established, and when you kind of take the work that comes your way, because I think that naturally happens when you're starting out.
It does. Of course it does, yeah.
And before you build up that real clear picture of what is it where we really sort of want to focus our attention on.
Yeah.
And I think that's important, focusing your attention on what you're good at.
Yeah.
But it's easy to do that once you are more established, and you know, you learn as you go, don't you?
Of course you do, yeah.
So yeah, Aga's our healthcare expert, albeit I have dabbled in healthcare when we've had all sorts of projects that came across my desk in the early years.
Right.
Altrincham Football Club and helipad at Manchester Royal Infirmary.
Right.
And, because I've done loads of helipads. So, but having said that
would be very niche sector, wouldn't it?
Well, it would be very niche, and I'm sure there are people who do it. But I think I've always kind of said, look, skills are transferable, and if you are an experienced construction professional, you can pivot into different sectors. But if you built up a real mountain of value in a particular sector, I think you should look to specialise, because I was saying before about how it is hard to stand out. And if you try and be a generalist and all things to all people, your message will get lost.
Agreed.
And I think that was one of the lessons I learned being part of bigger consultancies, that you know, consultancies grow and expand, and service lines expand, and sectors expand. And actually, I really enjoy being sort of small and boutique, and being able to say it's student accommodation and it's healthcare, and if it's healthcare, go and speak to Aga, and if it's student accommodation, I'm your guy.
Yeah.
So I think that's important.
I think massively important. Certainly from a recruiter perspective, if I'm ever asked to, well, not every time, but the vast majority of times, if I'm ever asked to hire a strategic director, it will always be, right, we want a strategic director in commercial developer or residential or whatever it may be, healthcare. It's always around a niche. And it makes sense, doesn't it? Because it's not only the clients you develop, you'll often end up interacting with architects who also specialise in that field. You'll probably build up a set of relationships with contractors who all specialise in that field.
Yeah.
So your whole personal network is all geared around that.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're very generalist, I think it's arguably much more difficult, isn't it? Whereas you hopefully will now have a brand, Chris, that if somebody, if maybe a new entrant to the market in the PBSA market comes into play, they'll quickly ask around, do you know any good QS or PM? Yeah, Midollo, these guys specialise in it. It makes it a bit easier, doesn't it? Whereas, like when you're maybe bidding for new work, right, well, I've consulted on 20,000 beds of PBSA now.
Yeah.
What was your other guy who's submitting the bid on in that space?
And we're quite fortunate. Healthcare is a bit, we're aspiring to get to this position in our healthcare work. Student accommodation is a bit easier because I spent the first part of my career in the public sector and then the second part of my career today in the private sector. So I've got a nice balance of both as well. As a business, it means that we've got a foot in public and private sectors, which is great in terms of, you know, if there's a downturn in one, the other one typically is thriving.
Yeah,
and,
good.
And it helps to just protect the business against those eventualities. Healthcare in particular has been quite difficult over the last few months, or certainly since the new government's come in and they've been finding their feet. So and NHS trusts are strapped for cash and trying to reinvent themselves and figure out ways of that they can generate best value as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
In terms of student accommodation, one of the things where I would say we're really fortunate is that we get a lot of repeat business, and we're very much a competition of one in a lot of instances.
Brilliant. It's amazing.
Which I think any consultancy would say that is their preference.
Absolutely,
My first leader used to say, aspire to be Betty's Tea Shop. Betty's Tea Shop over in Harrogate, for those who don't know it. People queue around the block.
Mental.
Pay a fortune. Leave a tip because of the experience that they've had. So,
absolutely,
So he always used to say that
advice.
Aspire to be Betty's Tea Shop.
Yeah.
And you know, I feel like from a student accommodation perspective, that's kind of where we are, or where we're certainly getting to, and that's great because, you know, we don't want to be in a position where, you know, let's be honest, we want to work with the clients that we want to work with, and the clients that want to work with us, and I think all consultancies can take something from that. It's not an easy position to get to, but I think if you have got clients who are particularly just focused on fee and lowest fee, then for me it's, well, what's the value that we can bring at that point? Because we're across lots of different things, and I always kind of say the last 12 months in particular as a business, we've really focused on being, you know, we've got our micro niches in terms of the sectors that we're in. And now we're really trying to turn the screw and refine the service offering, where we can be even more specialist and sort of strategic as well.
Yeah.
We don't want to be a commodity PM QS business. So, you know, actually, whilst we've got projects that do have those, meeting minutes need to be produced and trackers need to be produced, and that's not the stuff that gets me out of bed anymore. It's the stuff that at the moment we have to do. But where do we add most value? Well, it's the knowledge that we've got and being able to have that conversation with a client to guide them through a process. Be able
to making mistakes, I guess, that could cost them a lot more.
And you know what? I'm a big believer in sort of relationship management. I think it's one of the biggest parts of our industry. as soon as people fall out, there isn't a project. There isn't a project for anyone. So what good is that to anyone? The client's got a project that they want delivering. The contractor wants to build it. We as consultants want to help deliver it. So our role is the sort of the relation. My view is we're the relationship guardians. So we keep everybody speaking, and let's face it, there are issues on projects that need resolving, and sometimes there are difficult conversations to be had. That doesn't mean you have to fall out. You know, if you fall out, there's only one winner. And it's none of the parties that are there.
100%. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully you keep on doing that. By default, you end up working with a lot of the same architects, engineers, contractors, and hopefully the same clients. And everyone's vested in this interest of, right, let's deliver something that everybody wins. You know, the client gets what they're after. You get your fee. The contractor delivers it at a sensible margin so that they're not putting themselves under insane pressure, and everybody wins. That's how it should be, surely. We overcomplicate it sometimes, surely, in the industry.
I mean, the private. My experience of being in the private sector is very much, you know, you can do that. You can do that. Clients will get teams that they will just roll the same team out over and over again. You know, you haven't got that learning curve of learning to work with different consultancies, but let's be honest, it's the individuals. You know, the company, and I say this as a business owner as well, the company is a badge and it's the name above the door, but it's the individuals, it's the people that make those projects happen. So the relationship part of it is those individuals.
Of course it is.
And you spend a lot of time, you know, you spend as much time with these people as you do with your family, don't you, at times? You know, and I'm very invested in the projects that we do.
Good.
And it's one of the biggest positives, I think, from the private sector in being able to do that and to get a really good team who know what they're doing, and it's a well-oiled machine, and then getting the next project. And you know, you tend to find that the best teams sort of gravitate towards each other as well.
100%.
So yeah, we that's why we have a lot of repeat business. We work with the same consultants, same architects. We come across the same contractors quite regularly for that very reason. And
the client will then pay a fair fee to you all as well, because
and we know
this group is going to deliver it. And
we all know what we're doing.
Yeah.
100%. And it's let's, you know, from the client's perspective, it's low risk then, isn't it? You know, they've got a team that they're confident in that can deliver. I think it's something that the public sector and public sector procurement can certainly learn from. And you know, I'm not saying that fee scales in our industry predates me entering the industry, but there were some positives to it. You know, I get the sort of point around anti-competition, but I think for me it allowed fee not to be the point. And I've actually, it's been music to my ears, to be honest, because I've heard, you know, contractors and clients talking about teams that they've worked with, and I've heard them say they weren't particularly cheap, but they were great at what they did. And that would be what I would want anyone who's worked with us to say, because 100%. we don't want to do more projects. We want to do fewer projects, but be able to divert and spend the time that we need to deliver a really good service.
And you've also got to be profitable. And not kill yourself in the process. So if not, why the hell are you doing it? You know, it's madness.
Preferably.
Well, this is the danger, isn't it? Businesses can get fat, can't they? With just naturally, as you build a business, you build running costs. It goes hand in hand. Quite scarily sometimes. You just wake up 6 months down the line and go, "Oh shit, are these my monthly running costs now?" And you naturally build fat onto the business.
You do.
And then businesses can then get in the danger of going, right, well, we've got to keep this running cost going, so we'll then accept this bid at a lower price, and it's a fool's game because it only goes the wrong way, doesn't it? In reality,
we've recently lost out on a couple of because in healthcare we do we do have to bid more, albeit again we're looking at the service that we're doing and seeing how can we sort of step back and be a bit more bit more strategic.
Yeah, yeah.
Aga's done lots of different roles in healthcare around helping NHS trusts do business cases, and so we're kind of thinking a little bit outside the box on that in terms of how can we change our service offering to be, again, we've got our micro niche. How do we be more specialist, not commodity? Any QS should be able to value change, do valuations on site. That's not necessarily where QSs are going to add the value. Yeah. So yeah, that's something that we're focused on. But it is harder because you are more often in that bidding environment. And we had some recently where we asked the question, well, how many? You always ask. Contractors ask. We ask. How many consultants are you going out to for a fee proposal? And we got to, you're one of 6. And I kind of just thought, well, okay, one of six. Where's the incentive there for? And we, to be fair, we were most expensive on price, and we were top or joint top on our quality responses. And I said to Aga, look, if you were in the private sector, that's exactly where you want to be. You want to be paid well for the knowledge that you've got, because when you work with us, you get director level input into the project. Yeah. So you want to be paid well for the knowledge that you've got, because you've accumulated that knowledge over many years. But equally, you want clients to feel that they are getting the best possible services. You want to be top on quality, top on price. And if clients, well, all clients should expect top on quality, shouldn't they? Like, they want the best quality from the consultants.
Absolutely.
The clients who say, well, actually, we want that, but we want to pay the cheapest possible fees, well, they're the clients that we typically don't work with. Yeah.
And the danger is that still in the public sector, as much as there's a lot of rhetoric, it nearly always still comes down to price.
It does. I mean, that competition in particular was weighted equally between quality and price, which gives you a fighting chance. But even still, we could see that some of the pricing levels that had been returned there was very much that mentality that you described before of, we need to. You can see the thinking behind it, and you reverse engineer the feedback that you get, and you go, how can they be delivering? Like, the one consultants won 3 projects there. How can they be delivering a quality service at that level?
Well, they can't, can they? That's the reality. No. They just massage the numbers, don't massage the timesheets.
Well, yeah. It's easy for us to do. But coming back to the point about, the NHS has got some considerable challenges. And one of the biggest things could be, actually, you know what, if you've got somebody who can really, really offer value and be able to look at things, not just at that sort of micro level, but also look at it from a macro perspective as well, and be able to say, well, actually, do you know what? If looking at the bigger picture, we think if you did this, this, and this, you could save thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of pounds, and that's kind of where we want to focus, because that's where there's people talk about waste in the public sector, waste in the NHS. Consultants have some people also, I think, have that feeling of consultants. They're just there to turn up and drop a fee invoice at the end of the month. We're not. We're there. We're a business, and we are there to make money because we have to exist, as you said. But what gets most people up and out of bed in the morning? And for me, it's problem. I'm a natural problem solver. I love solving problems. I say to my 5.5-year-old, "There's lots of problems in the world. Be a problem. Be focused on problem." Solution. Yeah. And he'll come to me and he'll have a problem and he'll say, well, what do you think? Yeah. And one of the best mentors I had, you get to a point in your career where they stop telling you the answer. Yeah. And they start asking you what you think. Yeah. And that's the best thing I think you can do with anybody, is to make them think for themselves. So someone might say, it's 5.5, that's a bit... Well, the earlier you learn that, it'll serve you better in later life, won't it? So...
and you also say about the concept that you can tell somebody, or you can encourage them to come up with their own solution and learn it themselves.
Yeah.
And then one step further than that, you can get them to not maybe necessarily for your 5.5-year-old. There might be levels where they could do this actually, but the next level is to be able to teach it to somebody else.
Yeah.
Because if you can teach somebody else, then you've boiled it down to the point that you can hopefully concisely explain what needs to be done. And it's quite interesting. I think that's quite interesting that we should encourage at all levels of all ages of people, all different people's rate of wherever they are in their career journey. Right, you go and work that out and come back to me with a solution and tell me how we do it. Because if someone has got to the level where they understand and can confidently explain to you how to do it, then they've really understood it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So 5 people now. What are the plans going forward for the business, do you think? What do you want to achieve over the next 5 years?
Yeah, so I always say we're not in a rush.
Yep.
We're very organic in terms of the way that we grow.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to be in a position where, you were saying before, you'll often get that conversation where someone will say, we want somebody who's got commercial sector experience.
Yeah.
At the moment in the business, we've obviously got 2 experts in the fields: student accommodation, healthcare. I'm kind of on the lookout to bring somebody else into the team who wants to work towards that sort of equity in the business, and be able to bring 20 years plus of experience to say, actually, you know what, I've got my micro niche, and I really want to. I've done it in big business. I've done it in big business, small business, and I really want to go and do it. And I want to be a part of that process, and buy into what we're about, and have the freedom to be able to do that.
Yeah, brilliant.
So that's kind of my focus at the minute. And then what happens is you've got another work winner.
Yeah,
you've got another work winner. Somebody who can bring the work with them, and also then it's their gift to be able to then grow their team. So that's the way that we're kind of set up at the minute, is that we want to sort of grow these teams within the business. So there isn't a I said earlier in the conversation, I'm not big on saying, right, it needs to be £1 million by 2030, or it needs to be this, it needs to be that. I just believe in getting the right people in, because I think if you get that, I've been very careful with our recruitments in terms of making sure that they do fit culturally.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember one of Lisa in our team when she'd been with us about a couple of weeks, and we went out with some team drinks in Manchester. And I just said to Lisa, what's been your favourite part of joining Midollo? And she said, I just love the culture. And this is going back a few years now. And it was the first time I realised that we had a culture.
Yeah.
And it sounds crazy saying that, doesn't it? But when you set something up from scratch at your kitchen table, you're not sat there thinking, this will be the culture and this is what we'll do. So it was nice that kind of, I talk about things being organic, organic growth, and the culture has sort of formed organically as well. So,
and that's nice. It should be kind of natural, shouldn't it? Well, this is just the way we do things. It shouldn't be. It doesn't need to be set in stone or too dictated. It should be just this is what we do. This is, and people quickly get that, and people naturally fit into that culture or not. And but absolutely, for a team of 5 to add a 6th person, if they're completely misaligned to your business, then it'd be painful really quickly, won't it? And pretty obvious really quickly.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah,
100%, and that's important. And I suppose in terms of like objectives, in terms of the business growth, how do we do that? Well, I've talked about our sort of strategy in terms of we want to be a competition of one. We want to be able to stand out there we're on our own 2 feet in the market, stand out to clients. They're coming to us. You know, I spent quite a bit of my time. In fact, I had a conversation with an old friend from my hometown yesterday. Someone who's setting up a new business. And have you got any advice for me? And she was telling me about networking events, and I was like, well, networking events have a place, but in this day and age, she's looking to be a virtual assistant.
Right.
So, but in this day and age, so actually, you know, you'd be better off getting your marketing content and sort of really sort of, you know, that personal brand that we were talking about. Create something around that you can then create the content and put it out there, because let's be honest, you know, LinkedIn as a platform, if you go to a networking event, you're one-to-one. And how many people will you meet at a networking event, and how much do these networking events cost in terms of subscriptions and so on? Some of them a lot more than others. And I think the way of the world now is very much around, look, you know, you've got a captive audience there. So coming back to our business strategy, the reason why we are being so laser focused is because we're building the business to be able to generate that content, put it out there on platforms like LinkedIn. We've got an industry purpose-built student accommodation podcast that we're just starting.
Brilliant.
So we'll have a few guests coming onto that, and it's putting it out there, because you actually have no idea, do you, who's going to come across it, who's going to pick it up, and your hit rate is going to be much better doing that, putting it out to let's face it, a global audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Than spending however much money to join a networking group and it being a bit more, shall we say, speculative in terms of who you're going to come across that day. And so that was my advice for them. Like, you know, just starting out, perhaps save some of your pennies. Don't jump into a lot of networking events.
Well, a lot of people I see are, you know, LinkedIn is, like you say, an amazing platform. So, and the analogy I heard a while ago, which is very true, is like, how long would it take you to get round and give your spiel to 1,000 people, versus you can do that on one post on LinkedIn and 1,000 people will see it. And so going back to your friend there setting up a virtual assistant service, probably her logic is, right, I'm going to just be a virtual assistant to any company who will have me, and that's often the case, and with a new business. However, if she finds a real niche, so it could be, I am just a virtual assistant to the construction consultancy market, and that's all I do, and I talk at length about that on my posts, then she's much more likely to get work in that vertical. She could be, I don't know, a specialist within, I'm trying to think of other sectors, some kind of the IFA market, whatever it may be. If she's just says, look, this is all I talk about, then she can probably, coming back to your point earlier, Chris, is command probably a higher hourly rate because she's seen as an expert, yes, as a virtual assistant, but in one niche. So coming back to your whole point, and what I was going to say earlier is, should the market downturn, hopefully your strategy will be that even if the size of the pie in terms of overall fees available within the student accommodation market reduces, because you're seen as an expert, they're much more likely to go to you than maybe another firm they've used in the past, but they know we're not an expert in that field. So it makes perfect sense to me. Yeah,
100%. I follow a guy, I know you know him, Daniel Priestley, quite a lot on that type of stuff. He was very much around, you know, getting your micro niche and being laser focused on who you market, who are your clients, who are you actually speaking to. Because if you know that, it's easy to reach them in a crowded market, because you're not trying to speak to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I remember a great story that he was talking about a financial planner, and you know, somebody gets up at a networking event, I'm a financial planner, blah blah blah. So, well, who are your clients? And then the more you sort of picked away at it, this financial planner was actually, their micro niche was giving advice to family businesses, family farm businesses. And actually them being able to say, rather than I'm a financial planner, I'm an accountant, or this or that, which is really broad, it sort of really brought it down to, well, actually, it was about family-owned farming businesses and passing the farm down to future generations within the family, and all the challenges. And I've got a friend who owns their own farm as well, and all the challenges that go with it.
Yeah.
You know, how do they diversify? And we've seen it a lot, haven't we? And you know, Jeremy Clarkson on in his own farm has been probably a good advocate for the farming community. I'm not sure that the farming community probably felt that way when he first came on the scene.
Yeah.
But how many farm shops do we now see? And you know, that was part and parcel of this sort of financial advice. But again, micro niche. They probably didn't realise it at first, but they realised what their micro niche was, and then they had a very small target market to aim for.
Yeah, absolutely. Because one thing, you can try and talk to the whole market, and in some, depending on what your service line is, that might work. You know, if you're a business that's trying to sell to millions of people, then maybe it might work. But in a B2B market, I'd argue just being niche and speaking everything you do to that niche that you serve. Hopefully, you'll be seen as the specialist, and you'll get more work off the back of it. Yeah,
and having been in big businesses as well, sometimes that's the challenge, isn't it? Because you are kind of seeing, I mean, back when they sort of the old Capita Simons. I worked for Capita once upon a time, and that was really difficult. Actually, is trying to sort of cut through it, because you'd speak to clients and they'd be like, Capita, don't you do like call centers, and don't you deal with passport applications? I was like, well, yeah, but we don't. Me personally, I'm a construction professional, so it is. I think it's easier for small businesses to be able to do that, because let's be honest, there's fewer people in terms of who are setting that strategy, and it's just, I think it's easier to get that cut through. I really do.
And I think the industry's gone through various revolutions, hasn't it? You had one where, you know, there was a growth for a while, these one-stop shops, and whether it be a Capita or some of the other massive big engineering consultants who's trying to do everything. And the reality in terms of disciplines, it is not even sectors at this stage, just trying to say, look, we'll be your cost manager, your project manager, your engineer. And I think clients have started to realise this isn't working. We need individual experts, even more niche. So, you know, if you're a PBSA developer, right, I want my own specialist project manager who's also a specialist in our field, rather than one company trying to do all of it.
Yeah, I kind of think it's a bit of a mixed bag, because there's still a space for that as well, and some clients, that's what they want, and there's nothing wrong with that, because that's what they want, and that's what they feel best serves their needs.
Yeah.
But equally, unfortunately for us, there are also clients who go, do you know what, we just want a small consultancy. We want to be able to deal with the business owner. We want to be able to speak directly to him. We want to be able to, if there's any issues, he owns the business. We know that he's going to get it resolved. Because, as I've said, we are about repeat business. And the only way you can do that and shout about being about repeat business is to do a good job and get the next job.
100%. So, 7 years now. I'm sure you've had some learnings, made some mistakes. Would you say there's anything you want to share about things you've maybe changed your view on over the 7 years, or you think, oh God, I wish I had done that mistake? If you're talking to maybe a new business owner, or
I think naturally we're human beings and we all make mistakes. The worst thing you can do is make the mistake and keep making the same mistake. So if something's not working, you've got to change it. As a business owner, it's within your gift to be able to do it. And if you're not sure how to fix it, you know, I've got a wide network of people, but I've also got some mentors that I'll go and speak to about certain things as well from my time in industry. So I think having a really good mentor is important, and that served me well over my sort of years in business. I think the biggest one for me is, I remember going back to my university days and the statement being made, cash flow is king. And that is so true. Really you've got to put that money away for that. That rainy day will come. It will happen. We certainly experienced some of that last year. And I remember getting to a point, it's probably about 18 months ago now, where, you know, we had probably about 60 grand's worth of invoices due to land. We always strive to have at least 3 months worth of business outgoings sat in the bank.
Yeah, good.
And it was one of my mentors who sort of gave me that bit of advice early days. But even though we've done that, I remember getting to a point where we had, went through a period of your cash reserves get massively depleted. That can happen quite quickly, quicker than you realise.
Yeah.
And I remember a day where I was sat there thinking, what can I do here? We've literally got £322 in the bank account.
Yeah.
Forget the overdraft, which we never used. Still never used. Never had to.
Good.
But we had so many invoices that were due to be paid that would instantly replenish that cash surplus instantly. And I remember sat there thinking, what can we do? What are we going to do? And you've got employees, and you've got to think about. I will take personal pain before I'll put any pain through my team. And fortunately, the point in time that was, we were quite a way away from the end of the month. So there was time to fix it, and there were ways and means of we would have been able to make payroll. That's the important bit. But what an uncomfortable position to be in. So and one that we have never. It's the only time in 7 years we've been in that position, and we've never been in that position since. So, but I worry what would have been the situation. Well, I know what the situation would have been, and other businesses may find themselves in this position had we not planned for the rainy day.
Yes,
that could have been catastrophic.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and I might not be sat here today, or if I was, it wouldn't be. It would have been. I might be doing something else. And but yeah, I think that's probably the best piece of advice I could give to any business owner is plan for that rainy day. We've got a responsibility. If you want to grow a business, if you want to take on employees, you got to put them first.
100%.
So, and it's not just about that mentality of, well, business owners, you pay yourself a salary, you can give yourself a dividend if you want to, write yourself a check. It's not about that. No. So there has to be responsibility. Yeah. And that's probably the biggest one for me. And then the other thing, and we've touched on it already, but clarity. And I think it took me quite a while actually to get really crystal clear. Like I said, in the early days, you kind of take on the project work that comes your way. Oh, Chris, I remember being asked, we've got somebody on maternity cover. Can you give us some commercial support? Well, yeah, of course I can. Local football club, can you come and have a conversation with us about this? And it took me a while to get there to a point where I was thinking clearly about, well, actually, who are the clients that I want to work with? Where do I want to focus my energy? And I think that's the really, really most important thing is where do you focus your energy? Because, we've all got the same amount of time.
We have.
In terms of a working day. None of us know how much time we've got on this green earth, but we've all got the same amount of time in the day. Yeah. And you've got to focus. Really focus your energy. And wider than that, outside of the business, something that I've been very much focused on. You go through a difficult time in the business, and you got to be careful that things away from the business don't suffer as well. I've got a young family, and I've definitely been there where I felt like my family have got the crumbs. The energy, all your energy, all your focus has gone into the business, but. As someone said to me quite recently, nobody ever said on their deathbed, I wish I'd have worked more. So that's important, that find that balance between and make sure that, the people who are important to you don't just get the crumbs.
I think, and yourself as well. I think I personally think the kind of work-life balance thing is a daft notion, because not everything is ever equal fully in life. The best way I ever described to me is you've got, four buckets. You've got your family, you've got your friends, you've got you and your health, and then you've got business. And invariably, those 4 buckets, sometimes the level of liquid in each of them is going to vary.
Yeah.
And sometimes one will take more priority than another, but sometimes you got to stop and say, right, okay, this bucket's really empty now. I need to concentrate on this bucket for a while and even out the buckets, because it's never uniform, but you've got to recognise that if you just concentrate purely in this bucket and fill this up with water all the time and just let the others deplete, and that includes your own health. The same thing. If your health's not there, then
100%,
you can actually, all the other buckets completely fall down. So it's having that balance.
Yeah, you can only give your best in any of those buckets. You can only give your best if you feel at your best.
Yeah.
So and we've talked about it before, haven't we? But it's easy to not realise what's happening in those buckets as well.
100%. So
crafting out that time and space to stop, reflect, think about what's happening.
100%.
I know a guy who does a Friday beer thought, actually, now come to think of it, and he stops and reflects every Friday. But it's important, isn't it?
100% is. 100%.
So yeah.
Chris, we've talked, kind of run out of time. I always ask one last question, which is, in your career, who would you say was your best boss or mentor, and why?
Yeah, well, my team would be the first to say that. I hate the term boss. So my best leader was my first, actually, a guy called Steve Connolly. He was the guy who interviewed me to get me into this amazing but crazy industry. And a lot of the leadership qualities I think I've developed and have today, and a lot of my sort of core values were probably initially founded through Steve and my interactions with Steve. He had a great sort of open door policy. He, even when I first started working with him, he did have a door. He physically had a door, which was always open as well, which was great. But he had that open door approach. He was very generous with his time, and I always remember he had a great saying. I used to, you worry, don't you, as a younger consultant, when things aren't going well, or you've made a mistake, because we all make mistakes. And I remember I used to go to him in a bit of a panic and say, this has happened, or I've just not got enough time, and this is my to-do list. And his usual response, if it was something to do with a problem on a project, it was, well, nobody's died. And I used to be quite taken back by that as an initial response. I was like, well, no, they haven't. And actually, once you get over that point, any issue isn't insurmountable.
Absolutely.
And that's the important thing. And that was one of the things probably I learned the best, that you focus on that. And he always used to say, there's no stupid questions. And the number of times I find myself saying that in meetings where somebody says they've got a stupid question, and so, well, there are no stupid questions, because at some point, someone might not understand something, or they need something explained in a different way, or they've not quite grasped something that you said. So there's quite a few things that I learned from Steve. But he was a really good leader. He was visionary. He was very good at setting direction and being very strategic, but also, very, very focused. And he was a great storyteller. He really could bring people on that journey. And that's important in any business. I think, you get people who are aligned to the things that you stand for, but then, the journey is not, the journey doesn't end there, does it? It's constant. So keeping people on the bus, I would say, is something that I learned.
No, lovely.
Okay.
Chris, thanks for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
No, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Midollo keeps on growing as a business.
Indeed.
Marrow in Italian. I didn't know that until today, Australia. So you always learn something new. Cheers, Chris.
Great. Thank you.